Hi everyone, and welcome to Jane Talks Murder, where I'll be talking about and reviewing an episode of Poirot, Murder, She Wrote, Diagnosis Murder, or Jonathan Creek. Today, I'm looking at Murder, She Wrote, Trial by Error. Or as I like to call it, that time Jessica kicked ass in the courtroom. We begin the episode with a lot of bullshit and chaos, where this man and woman have had an accident, and Mark is stressing out because he blames himself and goes to a bar where Becky looks after him and comforts him. She offers him a ride, which he accepts, but this guy, John Detweiler, is watching them, and he makes a phone call to Becky's husband, Cliff, who is really pissed about it. Suddenly, we're in court where Mark is on trial for Cliff's murder, so I had to check that my DVD hadn't skipped. Jessica is the forewoman of the jury, and they now have to decide if Mark is guilty or not. Wait, what season is this? Do they make celebrities do jury service? Everyone wants to rush on with the verdict, but they start arguing immediately. So they go to a vote, which is 9 innocent, 2 guilty, and 1 undecided. So Jessica says they should go over the evidence. Mark's testimony says that he went to the bar to drown his sorrows, even though there were bars closer to the hospital. And Sally trusts him, as does Jessica, as he seems to be telling the truth, and says after he boinked Becky, her estranged husband burst in with a gun, so they got into a fight where Mark donked him out with a fire poker. With Clifford dead, Becky called the police and Mark the hospital, where he found out his wife had died. But Thornton says he knows in his gut that Mark is a murderer. That's probably the court food. He says he's not going to change his mind, and they yell at each other. But break it up, bitches, Becky is on the stand. And she said that she had a restraining order out against Clifford, so he shouldn't have been in her house. And she'd not met Mark before that night. We find out that Jessica was the undecided one, and she's bothered by the testimony of Fenton Harris, the motel owner, and not just because he's making jokes. He says that Mark was a regular customer, one time coming with Becky, which would make them both liars, but he's not 100% sure. Now it's the girls' turn to argue, and then the boys join in with this hairstyle verbally attacking Jessica. Bitch, please, they will not find your body. She thinks there's a possibility that Becky and Mark could have been lovers, but the bartender says he'd not seen Mark before that night. And Willie claims Clifford didn't have a gun when he stormed out that night, so where did he get it from so late? Frank throws a tantrum because things aren't going his way and wants someone else to be the foreperson. She will end you, you fuckface.
Mrs. Fletcher's doing quite nicely, thank you.
Becky's neighbour, who looks like the love child of John Cleese and Mr. Bean, says Clifford had a temper, so would have twatted him with a poker too. And the prosecutor claims that Becky and Mark lured Clifford out to the house to murder him. But Jessica assures that Clifford was the one with the gun, so they get into another argument. Jessica reminds them that Mark had a broken collarbone from the accident, so it's unlikely he would win for a struggle for the gun, and this sways some of the jury to re-examine the evidence. Jessica thinks that Mark and Becky did know each other prior to that night, but the crime wasn't self-defense or murder. And on top of that, the neighbor said it was a couple of hours between Clifford showing up to the house and the police arriving, so what took so long? The verdict is in and they decide Mark is not guilty, but Jessica rushes to talk to the prosecution lawyer and calls a meeting with Becky and her lawyer to accuse Becky of murdering her husband, without Mark being there.
And just where was he, Miss Fletcher?
He was at the hospital, murdering his wife.
Wait, what the fuck? Apparently Mark and Becky were lovers and pretended to meet for the first time as an alibi because Mark deliberately crashed the car to try and kill his wife, and when that failed, he went back and finished her off. Meanwhile, Clifford raged out at Becky, so she killed him in self-defense. And when Mark came back, he used the crime to cover up his own by confessing to self-defense. Mark thanks Jessica right before he's rearrested. Holy fuck, this episode. It jumps all over the place, so it was hard to write a cohesive script for. And for 3/4 of the episode, it's a pretty run-of-the-mill courtroom drama. But it's all worth it for that twist that comes out of nowhere and fucks up Mark's day. I was shooketh when I first saw it, and it was what made me fall in love with Murder, She Wrote as a show when I was a kid, and cemented Angela Lansbury as a total icon in my mind. I've not got much more to add. The twist is everything you need to know about this episode, and it's goddamn epic. We have two victims in this one. Clifford Anderson, killed probably in self-defense by his estranged wife, Becky Anderson, and Mrs. Reynolds, who had a seriously shitty time being intentionally run off the road and then suffocated by her husband, Mark Reynolds, who wanted her money. So there you have it. That was Trial by Error. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, or come say hi on social media. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit that like button, it really does mean a lot, or consider subscribing if you want more videos like this one. Alternatively, feel free to check out my other YouTube channels. Thank you so much for watching, I'll speak to you soon, and keep an eye out for clues.